He went on to say, and I think this is the key point, Sal, to what I make out of this from a Mets perspective is, well, now he's not going to be a Met, probably, is because he said, I'm looking for 13, 14, 15 years. And so if the Mets weren't going to go above 3 for their beloved homegrown fan favorite star in Pete Alonso, who I understand, as you pointed out many times, is 5 years older.
Yeah.
But still, if that's how they look at the first base position, even for their own guy, when they were looking at trading for Vlad Guerrero potentially, it was you trade him, you get him for his walk year like the Yankees did with Soto. He becomes a potential extension candidate. But no one at the Mets is thinking 15 years. And that's no slight on Guerrero. No first baseman has ever gotten 15 years. So this tells me that he's not as much of a fit for the Mets as he might have been at one point. But having said all that, Sal, I will say, in talking to people about this today to make sure I was on track with my thinking, it is too early to say. Just because a player wants those kinds of years doesn't mean he's going to get them. And if Pete Alonso opts out and goes, which could happen, and Guerrero's out there and the same thing happens to him that happened to Pete, where the market's not developing the way he wants it to, could you see the Mets involved? Of course. But now we know what he wants and what the Mets would pay a first baseman are nowhere close.
Yeah, I can see that. And also you have to consider the fact that a lot can change over 162 games.
Yeah.
So we don't know the type of season Vladimir Guerrero is going to have. He could have a little bit of a down year. Pete Alonso could have a really, really great year. Put all that together. But the fact of the matter is the Mets already have 15 years dedicated to Juan Soto. They had Francisco Lindor for 10 years. You have Brandon Nimmo for 8 years. You can't keep having these extremely long contracts and then be dealt with these aging players. All of this payroll, when Steve Cohen, even though he's willing to pay money, does not want to be going up against that third-tier luxury tax over and over and over again. It doesn't make sense for the Mets. So unless Guerrero can lower that number, lower the years, I do not think this is a fit at all.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that you guys didn't talk about, because I think you both make great points, is that he doesn't play a premium position either. Mm-hmm. Those guys that are on the long contracts play premium positions. It's not a first baseman. It's not a first baseman that has been a little bit inconsistent at times as well. So they're not going to give him that kind of length. They're probably not going to give him that kind of money, even on an AAV standpoint. Right. And he's a little bit, I'm not going to say delusional, because he's allowed to have his own value in his mind, and he may be putting something out there and is willing to come back to it. But unless you're playing a premium position, you're not going to get the length, and you're certainly not going to get those kind of AAV numbers.
I'll say it. Yeah, I'll say it. He is delusional. On what planet is Vladimir Guerrero Jr. getting 15 years? Oh, no, it's nothing like Soto, just under 600. 600 million? What? There's no way the Mets would sign him for that. There's no way anybody is signing for that. Maybe he gets 10, maybe 12 at a lower AAV. He'd be lucky if he gets 500 million. Juan Soto is the exception, not the rule. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. needs to lower his expectations.